Yeah. So, hi, Peesh, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. It's nice for you to eventually me onto your show.
I knew there was going to be abuse for that. I just knew it, absolutely. I
I'm
suppose.
just so eager to get on your show, that's all.
I just wanted to wait till I got the award and then invite you onto an award-winning radio show, you see. See what I
That
did?
makes perfect sense to me. So thank you very much. I am truly honoured.
Well, I'm honoured for a bit of your time because, my goodness, you're one of the busiest, hardest working musicians in the business. And I don't know how you squeeze it all in, to be honest.
It has been a very busy few years. It's nice to be back out playing, I'm sure we'll touch on the lockdown and stuff, but now, since everything has been unlocked and we are back at gigging and stuff, it's pretty much non-stop, of course, with Logos just releasing our new album, and I've got my solo gigs and EPs and the Cherry and Peace thing as well, which again I think we'll touch on later.
Mm.
But it's great to be playing, but sometimes it is a bit 100 miles an hour, and it's nice to slow down and spend an hour in your company here just chatting.
Absolutely. I know it's just life in general is so busy and there's so much stuff going on. But as I say, like every time I look at my socials, you've got gigs just about every weekend. You've just got, and you do radio as well for your sins. And you work. Of course, you're a frontline key worker in the postal service. If people don't know this,
Yes.
your day job.
A lot of people do, a lot of people don't. It's funny at the minute when I'm busy trying to send out orders for CDs. I'm getting a bit of, I wouldn't say abuse, but people are getting a bit impatient with CDs and stuff not arriving, merchandise. I'm like, well, people are telling me how bad the postal service is. I know this, but it's difficult times again. Well, how many times we've said that with a few years? We live in difficult
Hmm.
times. There's always
Yeah,
something, but
I
again,
know.
being in a band, being in difficult times kind of helps the creative process, I like to think, because there's always something to shout about, write about. And
Of
that's where
course.
I like, especially this new album, which I'm sure you will allow me to speak about, which is called Welcome to the Freak Show, is all about these times we live in, which is
Hmm.
really frustrating and desperate at times. But I like always think of my songs and lyrics, there's some darkness, but there's always hope at the end of it. And that's the thing what
Huh.
keeps you going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you definitely need that at the moment, I would say, for sure.
Absolutely.
So just for folk who don't know, obviously you're in Logos at the moment, but this is not your first rodeo, is it? So give us a bit of a back catalogue of what you've done before.
Okay, how long have we got? You
Yeah.
know,
If I
no,
could edit it into about an hour.
it's okay. Brief history of music, my music in the past, so 20 years or so. Yeah, I
Mhm.
started writing. I used to play drums in the late 80s, early 90s in various cover bands and then original bands. And then I just progressed into getting sick of that and wanting to find some more of a creative outlet, which ended up being me buying some sequencing Atari computer gear with a guitar, and I started writing stuff by myself. And I spent a few years just writing stuff locked away. Not for the fun, yeah, I did socialize, but I wasn't in bands for a good few years, and I sort of resurfaced on the scene as it was then, and
Uh-huh.
wanted to be a frontman. I'd wrote a lot of songs, and I went to see my mates' bands who I'd heard of, and that ended up becoming my first original band called Junkster.
Mhm.
This was in about late 2002, early 2003. And I saw them at one of my last cover gig, and they were okay. And they said, "Do you want to join?" I'm trying to keep this as fast and brief as I can. I joined them, and then I says, "Well,
We
yeah,
will
can we
put
use my
subtitles
songs?"
up for those non-Ashington.
Is that for you as well? Uh, but yes, and then, I'm trying my non-broadest Ashingtonian accent here. So and then yeah, so early 2000 we got going pretty quickly, and we ended up gigging for a good 2 3 years, and we got a record deal. We toured in Norway, we toured the UK, several times, and yeah, we got a record deal, and that's when it went belly up, as they say. It didn't go, it didn't
Yes.
end well. The band were friends together, and we kept going, but
Hmm.
I got a solo deal as well, and not it didn't work out, so I had to get out of that awful contract and then basically start again. So this is 2009-10. I started the Blisters, and again that lasted about a year or two before I wanted again. It's always a case of I want to do more, but
Hmm.
people I'm sort of work with don't seem to at the time. So I formed Logos then, and that was when I've been in Logos ever since, with a lot of offshoots in the last 10 years. So it was 2012 I formed Logos
Uh-huh.
until the present day, and hopefully 10 more.
I know,
We
at
shall see.
least. Yeah.
I hope
So
so.
because you don't only do logos because normal people would just have one band on the go at a time, but you also continue to have your solo projects as well. So how do you decide if you sit down to write a song? How do you know, is it going to be a Logos or is it going to be a Peesh solo? Or can you do that? Can you differentiate at the start?
Yeah, good question. Sometimes
Thanks very
it's
much.
deliberately, yeah, that's one. No, they're all good. They're all damaged. No, they're all the thing, I'll sit down with an acoustic guitar usually. So even the heaviest stuff I write for Logos is still written on acoustic guitar. So
Mm-hmm.
they're all just born on the acoustic. And sometimes I think, that could be heavy, that could be a bit lighter for the acoustic or my solo project. But with Logos, this whole album's written on the acoustic guitar, and there's a lot of heavy stuff on here. But one of my last solo EPs, not the last one was Airwaves, but a year ago I released one called Vicious Circle, and I was just really angry at that time because I felt like we weren't going anywhere as a band, and I felt like I was on my own with it. So I did a
Mm-hmm.
really heavy, angry EP, which could have been a Logos EP, but I felt like I was just by myself. I kind of spat like my dummy out a little bit, just saying we're not going anywhere. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that helps, rather than get like annoyed and just jack it all in. I'll just come into my little studio here and just write songs and vent
Yeah.
that way, which I think
Yeah.
is a much more positive way at looking at anger and frustration rather than just smashing my guitar and going to the pub,
Because guitars are
which does happen
expensive.
as well. They are. I can't afford to smash any, not deliberately anyway.
Yeah. Um, and I suppose that's the problem when you do work with a band and everybody is kind of committed to their own lives and their own jobs and things. So it must be quite hard to kind of get the right level of what everybody wants to put in and get out of a band.
Oh yeah, it can be an absolute nightmare because if we've all got jobs and kids or mortgages, whatever, you've got to really, really want to do it. And this is the harder time now since the lockdown. A lot of bands never even resurfaced after that, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wanting to push it even harder. And even some people in the band have maybe changed slightly. It has changed over the last 2 years, but I'm just wanting to try and do as much as I can because none of us are getting any younger. We're not going to be doing this forever. So I like to try and do as much as I can now, but without
Mm-hmm.
burning out either as well. Because
Yeah.
I do a lot of traveling for the Cherry Peesh, the punk poetry side project. I'll get wrong for calling it a side project. The punk poetry project I do with
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beverly Ann Cherry B,
Yes.
who's fantastic. There's a
Uh-huh.
lot of traveling because we live 300 miles apart. She is in Harlow, Essex, and I'm in Northumberland. So
Mm-hmm.
one of us has to travel a considerable amount to make that happen. And we
Yeah.
gig all over the country doing that. I would like to travel more with Logos and do more gigs, but sometimes it isn't practical, especially just financially and stuff these
Mm-hmm.
days. I would love to go abroad again, but that is just a nightmare at the minute because of Brexit, etc. And
Well,
as I
you don't
said,
know
the
what's
world
going to
has
be.
changed. So
Yeah. Because that's one of the things I was going to ask. I mean, was it Justice you did the tour, the sort of big
yeah, that's
tour?
right.
Yeah. I mean, that is, and if it is doable, as in it's doable for a band, but is it doable in this climate? Because as you say, you just don't know what's going to be lying ahead in terms of, well, anything, like hopefully not COVID and hopefully not restrictions like that, but
Fingers crossed.
I don't know.
Yeah, I do still see bands who I know well who are still have day jobs and they still manage to get abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they have just because they've done it so many times in the past, they have very good contacts and good people who look after them. So that comes into it as well. Whereas if we're
Mm-hmm.
going over now fresh, I think it'd be very hard for us to get gigs and whatever it
Yeah.
entails. It's been so long since I've done the abroad gig thing. I would love to do it, before the end of this band's run. I would love to get
Yeah.
abroad and do things, but
As you say, it's how do
I,
you start and where do you get that in that sort of then allows you to,
yeah.
and when you're so busy working and doing the gigs here, like who's got the time to organize a world tour?
Well, that's what I mean. And we've tried managers and stuff in the past, and things just haven't worked out. So now I'm more happy now doing it myself when I want to do it. So I'll say, lads, right, oh, we're doing this. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I like being not in a control freak way. I just like being in charge of it. So then I can,
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing this today, or I don't feel like doing that gig next week. But
Yeah.
I usually say yes anyway. But what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is, it's
Yeah.
just nice to have just having that control and being able to say when we're going to gig and when we aren't, because I've got
Hmm.
that many other projects. It's not as if I'm going to take months off because just haven't got that time, and
Yeah.
I don't want to because I love playing and writing so much. It's just I
Hmm.
just want to keep going and enjoy it as much as we can.
Yeah.
I still get the
So,
buzz.
well, I was going to say, but it's got to be difficult. Well, I think it's got to be difficult to always be coming up with so many new ideas for songs, but you just don't seem to have that problem. Or do you just hide it well? And, but you seem to just be able to, oh, I've just written a new EP, like what, where, how?
Yeah, I know sometimes I think, where did all that come from? Because I don't understand it myself sometimes. I wrote a new song last night and I wrote a new idea the day before. I've got songs lying around from Junkster days. I can't even remember them anymore. But I think I wrote about 100 songs for Junkster and we only recorded about 50, not even that. And I can't
Mm.
remember them. And then I wrote songs for this record label, which never happened. I've got the Blister songs,
Uh-huh.
some or demoed, which didn't happen. I've got the solo songs, and I've got the next bunch of Logoz songs written. I'm thinking, am I repeating myself? I must be. Surely,
Yeah. Have I
surely
written
they
this
do these
before?
not all sound this? Do they not all sound the same? I don't know. No,
And
but
do you not also kind of panic though that maybe you've written so many songs? Do you think, God, there was probably some right crackers in there that I should have got more of a spotlight? And maybe you should go
well,
back and
yeah.
find them. How would you start? I don't know.
Another good question, because during the lockdown, that's when I went back when I was doing a live stream every week. I did about 60 odd during
Mm,
the middle of the pandemic. And I
mhm,
was come back to all my vaults here, if you like. I've gone through all these old lyrics and remembering old songs, and I was bringing them back. So it was
mm.
nice to refresh them. I would love to record them all, but again, I just haven't got the time and I haven't got the money. So I
Uh-huh.
mean, I've got my little home studio here, which I can bash out half decent sort of demos on them. So that's
Mhm,
kind of good enough.
mhm.
It is frustrating because I'd like to put everything out. I mean, I've got my band camp page, which I've got about 100 and odd songs on there, I think.
Yeah.
But that I haven't even. There's probably about 200 more I could put up there. But again,
Uh-huh.
it's yeah, you don't want to feel bombarding people with stuff all the time. I'm always saying, buy this EP, buy that EP, buy this band's EP, come to this gig, and you feel like, you know,
I
times are
know.
hard for people enough as it is, so you don't want to, shove it in people's faces too much. So I am quite aware of that,
Yeah.
but
So talking
it
about the
it
album,
will be.
oh sorry.
Sorry,
Mhm.
I just said it would be nice to get everything out one day, but I
Yeah.
don't think it would be actually physically possible for the amount of stuff I've got.
Unless you were going to do a like that album in Northumberland that had about 20 albums in one batch, and you pay it up in weeks. You could do that.
did did you never get that? I know you were pretty keen on that one.
Well,
With
tempted as
Brendan
I
Healy
really
and everyone on
was.
it.
I was just waiting for Christmas. Ideally, somebody will have got it for me. But yeah.
Hey,
So yeah, talking about the new
that
album, which of course came out on the first. So that was, it's been out a whole week, in fact, now.
one full calendar week, yeah.
How's it all going?
It's going great, and it was brilliant to get finally get it out because it's been a long time coming. Like I said, with the lockdown, we were going to originally release an album called Carmageddon 2020, the turn of a new decade and everything, and that was what it was going to be. Carmageddon song uh, is on the album as well.
Mhm,
But then with the pandemic and stuff, that got shelved. So we ended up releasing the Digital Detox EP. And then every time we tried to go for the album, something kept going wrong. And it was just really great to finally get it out. And some of the songs are a few years old and some of them have been written very recently. So to push them all together into a collective piece of work, they all sounded like they were together. It felt like
mhm,
not a concept album, but it felt the flow of it. Even personally, I thought, God, that works with that. It feels like it's meant to be, and it's got an intro and an outro. So it sounds
mhm.
like it starts off. I've got my daughter doing a spoken word piece at the start and a creepy vaudeville sort of spooky welcome to the freak show, and
Uh-huh.
then ends with a piece of music we close our gigs with. Um, and all
Oh.
the songs in between just seem to flow in,
Mhm,
kind of capturing the zeitgeist, if you like, of this really weird time we've been living in over the last 2 years
mhm.
of desperation, frustration, isolation, and all this, but really coming out at the end of it and think that there's hope. Because the
Yeah.
final piece of music called La Salida Esperanza, which is very sort of very, very highbrow, but it,
Bilingual.
it, it means just a little bit. I always like sort of foreign titles, so people, what does that mean? But it just means that in desperation, there's always hope, So in these
Ah,
shit times, as I spoke about earlier, there's always a bit of hope. So
Yeah.
that's the end of the album, meaning that there will be hope. It will get better.
Yeah.
That's
It's
what I'm
been
trying to think. So anyway,
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously been going down well. People are liking it, I take it. You're getting good positive feedback on it as well. Good
yeah, I'm getting
reviews.
some getting great reviews and interviews and stuff. I did one the other day as well. It was really nice. But there's nothing better than reading a review, reading someone else's words, someone who's hearing your band maybe even for the first time,
Hmm.
and giving you really positive compliments and saying, "Yeah, this band has got something," and
Hmm.
great songs, great melodies, great lyrics, and yeah, there's now better than that.
No. Well, I was going to say though, I mean, inevitably, most of the bands that I go and see, if I'm talking to them, we end up saying, "Oh, do you know Peesh?" And they go, "Oh yeah, Peesh, yeah, oh yeah, I've either gigged with him or supported the, or you're honestly like an urban legend. Everybody kind of, it's like 7 degrees of separation with you. You can start with anybody and then work it back to you with great ease. But that's got to be good because I think that's a really nice kind of, nobody has a bad word to say, and everybody is really sort of, they really appreciate what you've done and how much work you put into your music.
I mean, that is really nice, and I do say that when we go to gigs, and some people say, "Do you know everyone?" I said, "Well, not really, but it just makes us think I must have been around for a long time." Because it's just, but I still feel like I'm new singing and playing guitar and writing. I still feel like I'm a drummer who just blagged my way through to the front. That's what it feels
uh,
like. But I've been doing it for like 20 years as a frontman, which is like, I can't believe it's been that long. But it is nice to put them in other bands when you're touring and playing up and down the country and stuff, and they come up and speak to you, and I know them as well. So we
mhm.
all know each other because
Yeah,
especially since the lockdown. I keep saying that, but bands seem to be a bit more, looking out for each other and stuff now, which is really nice. You can forge
yeah.
some really good friendships, relationships with bands and managers, promoters who
Hmm.
can, look out and try and give you that step up because
Hmm.
it's probably harder than ever now the way the world is to get
Hmm.
on the next level if you like
Yeah.
because bands aren't getting record deals and signing contracts and stuff anymore. You
Hmm.
make your money on your merch, really. The merch, your sales from the gigs. That's the best thing,
Yeah.
because we we don't get paid that much when we travel. But if you sell quite a bit of merch, that's quite
Hmm.
healthy for the bank balance of the band to put back in. It just turns it over. It
Yeah.
just makes us
Hmm.
able to keep doing it.
Yeah. So you mixed the album, then took it. Who did you get it mastered? Sort of, what's the word? Professionally? I don't
Yeah,
mean
it was
not
well, it
professionally
was
from you.
mastered. It was mastered where we actually recorded, Mill
Ah.
Studios in Alnwick by a cracking engineer and musician called Ali Lee, who's a brilliant. He plays in tons of bands himself, and he's a great engineer. And he
Hmm.
mastered it in house as well,
Hmm.
and we were really happy with it because it feels angrier. We listened to it back to back. Me and the band will listen to our first album, Psycho Radio, and the stuff in between the EPs, and then the new album. And the album's got like a different energy to it. It's got like
Hmm.
an anger because I know people, always mention the sort of punk pop stuff, and I wouldn't say we're trying to get away from that, but I just sometimes think that's like an easy label to put on bands. But if that's what it sounds like to people, then that's great. But I just
Hmm.
think this new album has got a bit more anger and a bit more angst and some bit more heaviness to it, a bit more depth. I would like to think.
Yeah. So just to touch upon your Cherry and Peach stuff a bit then, so tell us how you kind of got that going, because if people don't know, obviously Cherry B is a brilliant poet and spoken word artist, and you two collaborate in a very, I don't know how many people are doing this kind of thing that you do with like the kind of music and the spoken word. Have you come across a lot of these kind of things? Maybe it's just not something that I
Well,
know very much about.
yeah, well, me neither really, because when we first met, I was asked to perform on the Radio Northumberland Tyne Idols punk bus, where it's a double decker bus, and you go around the spots of Newcastle looking at certain punk famous venues where the Clash
Right.
played, etc. And it was done by Mr. Keith Newman, who I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you know well.
Yes.
And he invited me on to play, and we played. There was a stop off at the City Hall in Newcastle, and all the bus got off, and I played on the City Hall in front of the crowd of the bus crowd. And Cherry B was on that bus
All right.
with one of her friends from Newcastle, and Marcia, who was also a singer, and she introduced us, and she said, "This is my friend Cherry B, a punk poet." And I said, "I love punk poetry, like John Cooper Clarke." And she said, "Yes, I've gigged with him back in the '90s," and we just hit it off, and then became friends. And then she had an idea. She wasn't gigging or anything, and she hadn't performed in about 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
She'd been doing nothing, and she said, "How about putting some music to some of my poetry?" I was like, "What?" And so we tried it, and it worked. We did Punk Mum, and we went
Mm-hmm.
from there. And we'd only written about 3 songs, and she sent away to Rebellion Festival, and they booked us just like that. We hadn't even, I think we'd done one gig. So it was like, God, we need to get a set together now. So we had the biggest gig we've ever had in my life before we'd even started. So it just took off from there. And we've recorded albums where I played the drums, and we've done electric versions of songs. And
Uh-huh.
it's just went from strength to strength. But there is a lot of artists and acts doing a lot of spoken word stuff. It's very popular, and it's popular on the punk scene as well.
Mm.
Spoken word,
Mm-hmm.
the spoken word thing, because that's how we do a lot of punk gigs. We often
Mm-hmm.
open a lot of punk gigs because there seems to be a bit of a call for it. I mean, we've been invited back every year to Rebellion, and we're playing Rebellion next year as well, the acoustic stage. So it's
Wow.
like 5, 6 years running. We've done it.
Uh-huh.
It's like, wow,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
crazy, but
Well, it
yeah,
is,
it's brilliant.
but it's quite assuring to know that they want you back as well.
Of course, it is. Yeah, it
So it's
just
not
means I'm
just
even busy.
scoring your name off.
Yeah,
Not them again.
no, no, exactly. Because we didn't want to be a novelty act, but some people think it is a bit novelty because it's not for everyone. The spoken word thing, some people just don't really enjoy, and a lot of bands so a lot of fans and friends who enjoy the energy of Logos are a bit not sure about Cherry and Peace, but and
Hmm.
it's also vice versa. Some people love the Cherry and Peace, no, I'm not
Yeah.
sure about the band. So it's
Hmm.
all everyone's different tastes, and
Uh-huh.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. I mean, Cherry was doing some live streams just in a segue into the live stream thing, but I watched some of hers, and I mean, it's very clever. Like, I mean, I don't know, it's not just writing a poem, it's her whole sort of delivery and persona that make it work, I think. And then obviously when the two of you together, it is just something very, very sort of unusual, but it certainly works.
Yeah, it definitely works. And we've been to gigs before where we've watched other poets in action, and I thought, God, Cherry is so much better than a lot of quite well-known poets I've seen
Mm.
live because she adds a bit of theatre to it. She dresses up and she's
Hmm.
very theatrical in her performance, and she comes across really well. So
Hmm.
she's still got her solo thing going as well, and she might have some really big gigs coming up next year,
Wow.
which with a very well-known. Fingers crossed for that. So I
Excellent.
hope she does because I
Uh-huh.
think she deserves it in her own right, not just with me.
Yeah. Hmm.
She's very clever on her own right. So
Yeah.
I hope that comes off.
And of course, you have your own radio show with Cherry B as well. Tell us a wee bit about that, because it's not just, your bog standard nonsense like I'm coming out with. This is another sort of quite profound kind of radio show that you do. If I if it doesn't
Yes.
make it sound a bit
Again,
crap because I said profound.
no, no, that's true. Again, this was Cherry's brainchild, if you like, on Totally Wide Radio in London, who she knows a lot of the faces down there. And they were saying they would need some new shows, and she had an idea, which was called after one of our songs, "Poetry is the New Rock and Roll," where she said we could choose some of our favorite songs and discuss the lyrics or the meanings behind some of the songs, which is a different kind of show which they've got on there. So I thought it was a
Mhm.
good idea, but I wasn't sure how we could keep it going. But here we are, 18 months later, still doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm more than happy. It's very different, to say what you do in your radio show and what I do on my other radio show as well.
Mhm.
I find that quite easy because you're just picking songs you like and just saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is the Wild Hearts," etc. And
Mhm.
not saying it's that easy because I know you go to a lot of effort with your little segments as well.
Mhm.
But it is a totally different type of show, and we only do one a month. So, and I only do
Mhm.
one of mine a month as well. Where you do about 12 a month, don't you?
12 a week, it feels like. Oh yeah, but it's all good and it's all good fun and yeah. And it's good to hear because I think that's the thing about doing like community radio and stuff is that you do start to listen to a whole kind of wide range of like other shows and other types of music, not necessarily just all the kind of stuff that you do. I mean, I listen to people's shows and I think I would never have thought of playing that. It's not in my sort of remit, but it kind of gives you a better, broader, kind of idea of what might be quite nice to do and yeah, and plus my show is quite eclectic because I'm not frightened of playing some stuff that's slightly out with the genre if I think that is going to be enjoyed by the masses, the masses,
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
the
Of
eight
course.
people that are listening.
Yeah. Include me. No, I totally agree, but it's also nice to help other bands and play. You know, I'm sure you've had it when other bands will say, "Oh, can you play my band on your show?" And that's great. And people still say that
Mhm.
to me as well. And I'm more than happy to do that, help bands and plug gigs
Mhm.
and stuff because it all keeps it in that community of
Yeah.
what we're all trying to do. Just help each other and enjoy
Uh-huh.
it, you know. And
I know.
I do. I wish I had again more time to do some more radio, but it's just so busy at the minute, which is great.
Aye. Oh, it is. And the thing is, you wouldn't change it because I think, we've always said like the music side is like your sort of predominant thing, and the radio is like your kind of aside. And mine was almost like the other way around,
Absolutely.
So it's, but you do what you can, you fit as much as you can into a week. And, but we have to go back to lockdown because, of course, it was a rather bizarre time. But you were obviously one of these artists. I mean, there was a handful of folk that I was watching on live streams and things over lockdown. In fact, a Friday was brilliant because I seem to remember 6:30 was Biffy Clyro. It was always Simon with his beautiful guitars doing a little half an hour. Then I maybe had a bit of a break for a bit. Then on you came at 8, and you did every Friday night for how long? How many did you say you've done in
Yeah,
total?
I think I've done about 64, 55 or something like that. I missed when we got slightly let back out of lockdown in September. It was I think we had a gig on the Friday, so I didn't do that one. Then I got COVID and I missed 1 week, so I think I only missed about, and that was maybe
Hmm.
Christmas Eve or something, which was a Friday, maybe something like that. So I didn't miss many. So there was quite a few in a row. It was about 65, something like that. So
But they did
almost, just continuously.
but they did totally become like, just for you and for the folk that were watching, it was like, you could set your clock by it. It was like Friday night, right? Well, we're on for Peesh's on at 8, and it was great because it kind of gave structure to a time when there was absolutely no structure to anything. Do you know what I mean?
It did. It gave massive structure to myself because I only thought, right, I'm going to try one. I was like, no, shit. Yeah, no, no, I can't do it. And I just stood my phone up in my son's bedroom at the time and tried, done a test.
Hmm.
Just, yeah, I'll try one. And I really enjoyed it. And I got really good feedback. I thought, I'll do another one. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'll only do a few weeks because we'll be back in the pub by,
Yeah, exactly.
by
Yeah.
April or something. And then it was
This
like,
is
oh God,
six
this can
weeks in
last.
tops, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, and then another three, and then I just kept going and going. Then I started learning covers, which is something I didn't really do, playing
Hmm.
guitar. Didn't know covers, so I ended up learning hundreds of covers and ended up digging all my old Junkster blisters, demos, songs I'd never ever played live before,
Hmm.
ever. So I
Ever.
kept going with it, and then it became my life. Honestly, on a
Uh-huh.
Monday when I get in from work on Monday, I go right this week. What's the set going to be? And I'd get my songs out and well, who should I cover? So it gave great structure, and I was still able to work. So I was never locked in the house. I know it was lockdown, but I
Yeah.
felt like it gave me a new lease of life in a way. I was still working as normal, but it gave me a new lease of life. I was still playing, and
Uh-huh.
that was like a massive savior for me. I mean, even last week I had the Logoz album launch. Some guy was saying, "Oh God, it was great to watch you during the lockdown. It meant so much because I live by myself, things like that." And then
Oh.
on Saturday at the Cherry and Peach gig, there was a couple from Ireland who said, "We watch your stream every week. We'd sit down and it's like, wow." So people are still coming up to us now,
Uh-huh.
like two
Hmm.
years later, and still saying how much they enjoyed the lockdown. So that's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's really touching that people would say
Uh-huh.
that. But then it was weird because it just ended. And that was it. Okay, right, we're back out
Aye.
now. Okay, oh, I was like, oh, no more lockdowns, no more lockdown drive streams.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was a
go
bit
on.
sad by
Come
it.
on. Bring back lockdown.
Everyone's in the pub now. Everyone's away on the gigs and stuff. Have you no watching?
Well, that's what I was going to
But no,
say. I
it
was
was
like, you could have had a
yeah.
special Christmas lockdown, or not lockdown, Christmas live stream special. Um, because I wanted to ask you about Christmas, because obviously Christmas songs are pure cheese normally. But are there any? Have you covered any Christmas songs or done any little Christmas
Oh
numbers?
yeah,
And yeah.
done a few over the years. I mean, I've got about 2, 3 years ago. I did two punk Christmas songs. Not another, just another Christmas, not another Christmas song, something like that. Yeah, I can't remember them now because I just yeah. But they're on my YouTube channel. I did two Christmas songs, 2 years in a row. No, drinking about Christmas. That was it. Drinking about Christmas and
Ah.
not another Christmas song. So they're sort of taking the mick
Mm-hmm.
out of the
Mm-hmm.
Christmas song. But I've also covered Bad News, Cashing in Christmas. I've got that somewhere. I did Merry Christmas, Everyone, Shaking Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
We used to cover Band Aid,
All right.
Tuesday Nuts Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that live, never recorded it, and we recorded the John Lennon one. And Happy Christmas War is over.
Oh yeah.
And we performed that as a band live in a tiny studio once. We took all the gear in and we played that live. So I'm into the Christmas songs, like, to be
Uh-huh.
fair.
Well,
But
I'll need to look out
and
your
myself, sorry.
I'll need to look out those ones for my alternative Christmas
Yeah, we'll
special.
do. And
Get them out.
and myself and Cherry, we did a Christmas Tales of Ringing song, taking them about all the the money spent at Christmas.
Commercials. Mm-hmm.
And exactly. And we also did we covered Fairy Tale of New York last year as well.
Oh yeah, I could do
We
remember
did a
that
little
actually.
video for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think I've over Christmas the festive songs over the
Yeah.
year. So I'm not going to do one this year, but we might share some of the
Yes,
videos that we've done in the
absolutely.
past for a bit of
Yeah.
fun.
So where do we go from here? So you've got the new album and you're doing the promo for it and you've done the launch gig. So um what happens? Are you in a bit of a kind of do you get the kind of doldrums after it kind of goes out and you sort of go, yeah, it's out, and then it's like, oh, uh
I know where you're coming from, but I'm trying not to think like that because it's only available on CD and on download from a Bandcamp, so it's not available on Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes yet. So we're gonna launch it
right.
on them social
Uh-huh.
platforms early next year, and also have some T-shirts coming out next year as
Ah,
well.
brilliant.
And
Mm-hmm.
we're approaching with 300 gig, which we think is going to be Bannerman's show in
Oh
Edinburgh on
yeah.
February the 4th as well. So we're
Mm-hmm.
looking almost like another not a new launch of it, but like a re push of it at the
Yeah.
start of the year, because I
Mm-hmm.
know this is a difficult time to ask everyone to buy everything, and we've got a new feature T-shirts next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, I don't look at it as being it's out and that's done. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is going to have legs, you know what I mean? Because we're still
Ah,
waiting on reviews coming in as well. So I'm
mm-hmm.
trying to
Yeah.
not sort of drag it out, but just
No.
steadily sort of keep it going, because it's an album I'm massively proud of, and I want as many people
Mm-hmm.
to buy it, no, to
Ah.
hear it as possible and enjoy
Yeah.
it, because we are as a band massively proud of it, and I just want
Yeah.
to keep it going. But there will be new material next year as well, because I'm always writing, so
Of course.
that'll be going on in the background as well.
Because well, you've already got I've bought the tickets for the gig you're doing with Dragstrip Guns and Carol Hodge and Dan Boss Kane,
Yeah,
yeah.
Dan, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Boss Kane, yeah,
Dan, sorry. Mm-hmm.
Dan, yeah, that's right. I will
Mm-hmm.
need to shout that on, but
I don't-
yes, I mean that's in February as well. So we've got two big gigs coming in February: a
Mhm,
headline one, and then Drag Strip Guns' first headline gig, which is in Leeds Santiago Bar. So it's a
mhm.
good start of the year next year.
Yeah.
So again, we just keep looking forward.
Well, there'll likely be some more festival action and various things, I'm sure, as well. So I know, just
Fingers
gotta.
crossed. Yeah, we've got applications in left, right, and centre for certain things. A few we're just waiting to hear word from. So
Mhm.
fingers crossed, it's all going to be good, and another busy year next year.
Yeah. And are you allowed to disclose this business? You are doing another Peesh album, are you not? A solo one?
Yeah,
Or
I'm doing a
is
piece.
it an EP or an album?
I'm gonna do an EP. Yeah,
Hmm.
called The Unknown Road. I've already got two of the tracks recorded, and all the rest are written. I've just got to record them. I'll be putting that out probably around February.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
February, March, maybe Easter. Who knows? We'll see. Sometimes certain you can plan things, but then other things just get in the way
Yeah.
in a positive way. So we'll
Uh-huh.
see. But I'll definitely be putting out a new solo EP early next year sometime. Definitely.
Hmm. Well, I suppose that's the thing, though, when you kind of do it for yourself, well, you can suit yourself then as to when you want it. There's nobody saying, get that album out and do it now.
That's what I was saying earlier. That is the beauty of being in
Hmm.
control of everything. It's just you can do it as and when you want. You know, you can change the dates. As I said,
Hmm.
ideally, we didn't want to release the Logoz album this late in the year, really. But it was just the way things happened, the way
Hmm.
the timing of the album getting finished, the timing of the album getting pressed and stuff. You know what I mean? That was
Hmm.
touch and go. That we actually had the product last week. That was a nightmare. That's another
Uh,
story. But
mm,
it happened. So, and it's out now, and it's great. And you can get it from our Bandcamp, everyone, Logoz
hmm.
Bandcamp, or from me personally, or at a gig, football gig.
Of course, yes. Um, so
Yeah.
just a little bit, because obviously we're talking about you did some covers for your live streams and things, but I know obviously the Wild Hearts are one of your favoritist sort of bands in the
Yes.
world. But just for the sake of it, who are your sort of favourite bands? Who would you have liked to work with? Who would you work with? Because probably you wouldn't work with all your heroes, I wouldn't have thought. Not
No,
mentioning any
because
names.
well, the thing is, when I first started playing guitar and I was writing my first set of songs, I was listening to sort of a lot of John Lennon and the Beatles at the time, and Oasis.
Mm-hmm.
That and when I first got an acoustic guitar, that's what inspired us to start writing acoustic music. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get an electric guitar first. I didn't want to write heavy stuff. I was playing drums at the time, and I played along to the Wild Hearts because I like the complex sort of beats of some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but songwriting influences, it was Noel Gallagher and John Lennon stuff, which set us on the road to wanting to write music. Obviously, I
Mm-hmm.
can't write with John Lennon. It's 40 years ago, 42 years ago today.
Is
Anyway,
it?
that's something else. Yeah, for John Lennon, never
God.
mind. But Noel Gallagher, yeah, I was like, I loved the early Oasis stuff. I thought it was amazing. But getting onto the electric guitar, I loved Green Day
Mm-hmm.
because Billy Joe, to me, he made it look easy. He made it look like I can do that. Yeah, I know people
Mm-hmm.
say that's what the Pistols did or the Joe Strummer did for that generation, but my generation, where I watched Billy Joe, I thought, wow, I want to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
people said, oh, you sometimes have a bit of a stance the way he does, but that isn't a deliberate lift or copy. It's just
Yeah.
maybe you're just subliminally sort of inspired by watching
Mm-hmm.
someone because I just thought I would like to do that.
Uh-huh.
So that they were my early influences of songwriting, but working with people I don't know because I really just love working by myself. In fact, I'm most happiest when I'm in this room by myself, really recording and writing stuff, and then playing it back and go, oh, that's good. I love
Yeah.
that process.
Uh-huh.
Even going in a recording studio, I get a bit nervous when there's an engineer there. I always find that a pressure. I mean, because you've got to deliver your best performance on the nose right there, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
Well, I
and I
always
get a bit
think
shaky. So,
you're probably critical because you're your most critical critic, but I don't think I would like thinking,
aren't
right,
we all?
I've done this to a really good standard, and then going and they go, actually, do you want to change that? I'd be like, no, don't bloody want
Yeah,
to
and
change
that trust me, that happens a lot. You know what I mean? Like,
it.
but having said that, on this album, this is the most kind of fun I would say we've had in the studio. Doing my vocal takes, I did about 10 tracks in one night, and I was really chuffed. And I did all my guitar tracks. I was like, "Wow, I don't normally do it this quickly." So I don't know. I must have just been. I think we were just really determined. We've got to get this thing recorded as soon as possible. So that was like a proper focus and determination recording this album, which maybe
Hmm.
hadn't had before. They would record a bit sporadically, but
Yeah.
the guitars and the vocals and the drums, they're all just nailed down really quickly and tightly. That's why I think it sounds like a collection of. It doesn't sound like it was recorded 2 years ago. That was recorded then. It
Hmm.
sounds a piece of music of the time of the moment, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm most happy about. Yeah.
So that's just my Facebook notification come up there, and I was like, it's not off-putting at all, is it? No, very professional, just. Um, do you ever wish that you could just go back to being a drummer in a band and not having to do all the writing and just turn up and do the gig and go home? Although you have a lot of stuff to pack up if you're the drummer, I suppose.
Nah, never bothered me because when I used to be a drummer, we used to carry my drums to practice and stuff. Now we go rehearsal rooms where everything's set up. When I was a young man, when we used to set up, it was you used to carry all your PA and everything. So I did that for years and years. Yeah, but now it seems to be a standard joke that I'm always the one standing around talking at the end of the gig when the gear's been carried out. But that's not my fault. People say that's what I say anyway. No, but
Yeah.
I still play drums. I'm actually sitting at a drum kit now. You can't see them. It's my little recording kit. You can't see it.
Uh,
So I still enjoy the drums, but I wouldn't like to play drums in a
no.
band again.
Hmm.
I'm having far too much fun singing and playing and
I know.
trying to be a front man.
Well, you're very good at it, and it's always thoroughly enjoyable. And I know we have a kind of standing joke that after having known you for like 2 years or something, I've still not seen all of Logoz in one room at one time. There's always
I
something
know.
goes wrong. But ideally, February
Next
the
time, that'll
yeah,
always be next
February the
time.
blah
Yeah,
blah.
February
Just could everybody
25th, I think it
isolate for
is.
at least 2 weeks prior to the gig and wrap yourselves in some sort of
That
bubble wrap
that
and
would be very helpful, please. Yeah.
yeah.
People of North Yorkshire and Leeds, please stay in.
Well, we shouldn't
But come to
laugh,
this gig,
but
please.
I saw his Cherry's got COVID again, is she not, after being at something list. Is she? Is that who?
Yeah,
It is
again,
Cherry, isn't it?
yeah, she has. Yes,
Yeah.
McCove actually came up last week. Yeah, we were playing, and obviously she compared the Logoz
Mm.
Trillions gig, and then we played on Saturday in Middlesbrough and on Sunday in Sunderland. And there's been a few people I've heard of, but not a scary outbreak as such yet.
No,
So, and I've
it's
been fine. So,
mm,
touch wood, yeah, everything's.
yeah, I know.
It's just annoying that it's still out there, and we still have to be careful. But I guess it's always going to be like that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's just going to become part of life, but it's just annoying still at the point where it's not enough just of life that things still get cancelled and pulled and people pull out and you know, but
Yeah,
what can you do? Just got to, it is what it is.
as
Even
they say.
um anything else to report? Anything else you want to touch on that I have not in my pretend
I
interviewer
think
persona?
no, you very good, and I must comment on the excellent background as well. The backdrop there, fantastic. I know people listening can't see it, but if you watch it on YouTube, it's
Yes.
pretty cool.
Well, of course, it will all go
But
out so
yeah,
that everybody can enjoy the Logoz background here, my wallpaper. I
exactly.
I did fess up to the guys in the City Kids when they were saying, "Oh, it's really cool," and I said, "Yeah, well, it's because I can't show you the back of my room because it is just a tip." So
So there's
this
a
so it
reason to
kills
do
two
this.
birds with one stone. This, you think it's just, so I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no.
very stylish, but also,
So when will the show go out? What gig can I plug? Because
well,
we've got two more gigs left this year.
okay, well, so we're on Thursday. So a week tomorrow, I would hope that I'll have everything edited up. And then after it goes out on the show, I'll put it up on YouTube's.
Okay,
So,
brilliant. Because we go, so by then, we'll have our last gig of the year coming up, which will be on the 28th of December at Trillions in Newcastle again, but it's for Crashed Out Christmas Party, which
oh,
is always, it's in between Christmas and New Year, but it's a festive
hmm.
bash, and it's always rammed, so it's always a brilliant night. There's Crashed Out, the Hangmen, and Logos.
Is it
So that'll be
for
a
a
great night.
thing? Or is it just like a band's night? It's not like a for
Just a
a
band night.
reason. Yeah,
No,
just a
they do
pub.
it. Yeah, they always do like a festive bash in between Christmas and
Ah,
New Year every year, and we played it a few times back in the day, and it's always rammed. So it's
mhm.
always a great night. So look, any Newcastle folk listening, watching, get down. It'll be great, and
Mhm.
then it'll be another new year. So then we start
Yeah.
again.
Uh-huh.
I like the start of a new year because I feel it is right where we go from here. It's a new
Uh-huh.
start. I like that. I like a fresh start,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
we can just keep going. Love it.
Absolutely. Keep the momentum up. Well, that's lovely to speak to you, of course, as usual. And yes, it's only taken us a long time to get this actual official interview thing done. But, as we say, there's
Been
too
great.
much
I've
of
really enjoyed
life
it.
to do. So, but we'll do it
There
again.
is. So I'm
One thing we should
yeah,
do,
so
apart from do more solo songs with me singing on them, just saying. But did you see I
knew you were going
shoehorned
to say
that in
that.
there? Well, there's lots of people listening, so that it's officially there, and you can't ignore that fact. No, we should
Thank
do a
you.
Wild Hearts thing, a Wild Hearts off at some point as well. You know the thing I did with Nick, and we like chose
Oh yeah,
songs
okay.
and kind of just we should do something like that at some point because that's quite good fun, and that
Hearts
involves
off. I think
legitimate
we should.
drinking
Like,
whilst doing it because that's allowed. This
well,
I
let's hold each other to that. So be
yeah,
no talk of bands and stuff. We'll just talk. Well, apart from one, our
the Wild
favorite band,
Hearts.
the Wild Hearts.
Yeah,
So I'm well up for that. Like,
yeah, I think that'd be
I've
good,
got
and I
some really
quite
obscure ones for that one.
well. See, that's the thing. It's a good opportunity to just sort of dredge out some of the ones. Although it sadly pointed out the last time I did it that I know nothing about the Wild Hearts and indeed even what songs are on what albums it would have been, and made
Well,
quite
I'll
a
definitely keep you right on
embarrassment
that
of
one. I'll
myself.
keep you right on
Yes,
that one.
I absolutely you will. Right, Peesh. Well, thank you so much for that